Welcome to Crazy Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. We are back on a Thursday night. You got your boy Throwback here with the man himself, TBD. Yes, he is the
Three.
new 3BD.
Three.
Okay. New, undisputed, unconditional, no one can touch him. Wicked Crazy Pinfalls Community Champion.
Put your finger
What's
in my
up, bud?
cookies.
How are
There
you
we go.
doing?
1, 2. Well, that's a vase. That's not 3. But 3 will be there soon. 3 will be there soon. I am the head of the Universal Championship. I am the head of the proper and right black and gold NXT Championship. And the head of Wicked Crazy Pinfalls. Because I have defeated Shane Husky of Body Slam. I technically should have been the first champion anyway, but we're not going to go there. And
Your pride is trying to hold back Vader.
but it happened. Shane was a worthy opponent. He was a worthy champion. He was a great guy, and it's come home to daddy. That's all I have to say.
If you guys haven't caught up on the score, how we score these prediction shows is this: if you get it right, it's 10. If you get it by pinfall, 7. Submissions, 3. DQs, 1. If you don't, and the way it is that if you get the pinfall right, if you get the ending of the match right, but the person lost, it negates it because of the fact that a negative and a positive is a negative, so it doesn't really count. So
What
when
were
the
the scores
tally
again?
122 to 78.
Wasn't my score very similar to 122? Yet, it was like one. It was like
For the
111
number
or
one
something.
contender, yeah, you were right in the hundreds.
Yeah. That's a nice
So,
place to be.
I mean, it's interesting to see like how this is all evolved now. And now that everything's going the way it is, and now we have a champion. You're the second one, though, but we've had one for a month. Let's see how many wins you can rack up. Now, Dennis Farrell is your next opponent,
Good
and
luck to
then if
me.
and then after that, I think I might as well give you like gauntlet matches, is because these are matches everybody, including yourself, said you want. So let's see how that goes. Um, if I had a perfect way, if I could set it up, I'd have you versus Dennis versus Rob versus Maggie, but we've already had that in in the tournament. So I want to see, and Dennis had the rightfully way of saying it because he pulled out of the tournament, the bracket, because of certain things for professionalism.
Yes.
Um, but
What a
it's
professional guy, that piece of
amazing.
shit.
Hey, he's a good friend of the show. You got to keep all that up. I'm happy way things go. Shane, the tournament did what it's supposed to, and now it's just pay per view after pay per view and stuff like that. I've been thinking about what to do next with all this, and I'm just going to sit back, officiate, make sure the title gets to where it needs to be, because that title is going to move around. It's going to have more freaking traveling stamps than a freaking passport right after all this is said and done, after we have to change it
It's gonna be
eventually.
passed around more than something that I won't mention.
I think it's just one of those things, like, it'll help strengthen this community, not even ours, but just the internet podcasting and just internet wrestling in general. Just because the world's been so negative between what's happened in Texas, Oklahoma this week. Um, my girlfriend told me there was another one today. So I mean, it's just terrible things happening constantly, and we need something positive to actually come out of this. Now,
Oh, I'm just seeing now the tweet on multiple people were shot at a funeral. What the hell?
mhm.
Good lord. I've been at work all day, so I haven't really been in the loop of the world of what's going on.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. It's just we use this as an escape to unplug. So I mean, it's a way to get away from the problems in the world, but when the problems in the world are more and more prevalent, it's harder to get away, you know. A changing
Right.
tags,
Yeah.
big money drew the champion. um,
Where?
on Twitter. That'd be funny.
Oh, big money champion.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
BMC. um. Yeah, I saw. Actually, this before I went to work today, I saw what's his name, Eric something in Congress, Swalwell, had said something about all this stuff, and then some other Republican senator or congressman, whatever they are, like does this angry retort because how dare he tell the truth, which is really what it is at the end of the day, is that they support. Oh, he said like the big punchline in that whole thing, it was quite a gut punch, was paraphrasing, 'cause it's not the exact wording, but something to the effect of his colleagues, obviously the Republicans on the other side, would rather do nothing for the children, but might as well, like, what are they even doing there? They might as well just go to the funeral for the killer. That was out. It was like something almost directly that was what he said. It was like, that's some hardcore stuff there, but sometimes some hardcore stuff needs to be said because what's it going to take? I
I
don't know.
I remember I was leaving school because I went to a tech high school and they bust us out. And I remember hearing about Columbine, and I I was I was like a sophomore going into my junior year the next year, 99. Yeah, 89 to 98 to 99 was my junior year because 99 to 2000 was my senior. I I was thinking like, who the hell could do that? Like, who could go into school where everybody is innocent for the most part, key term loosely, most part, and hurt people? It's like, why would you do that? And it's like Sandy Hook, same thing. Oh, just young kids, and then this past week in Texas, and it's like nobody gives a flying shit, and people are just arming themselves and going in and going after anybody they don't like. What's next? Like I said this before. I think I said it in a chat with you there. I'm like, I'm more of afraid now than I was when I was in high school
Yeah.
that my kids, and I'm even meaning, Lily, you know, my girlfriend's kids, but they're to extension, they're my kids. Um, they going into school, someone flipping out and just shooting the place up, and I'm more of afraid of dropping Lily off at bus or at school and something happening. I wouldn't be able to live myself. Hell, my son will be here in 2 months, and I'm more of afraid when he gets to that age, something bad's going to happen to him. There are people, questioning the school system. There's people questioning the safety of everything. There's so many topics going around in the world. And I know this is not wrestling related off the bat because there's so much good wrestling that we need to get to. I wanted to get my thoughts and Drew's thoughts out of this, but it's just, especially you being a teacher too and being a good friend, I'm more worried of your safety, more worried of Lily's safety and everybody's safety, because it the world is, to quote my mom, is going to hell in a handbasket, and it was supposed to get better in what, that was 98, last 20, almost 25 years since Columbine happened, and it hasn't. It's just
Got worse.
reverted. And people are more looking at it like, well, we need to arm down. It's our Second Amendment rights. I get there's the Second Amendment rights, but there's other things you have to put into factors about these situations and stuff. And I don't like talking political on here as much. I don't like talking political in general, not just because of the fact that
It's just
that
not a
for
fun thing to
me,
talk about,
pretty much.
honestly.
And like my views about certain things are different than others. I mean, I think in the healthcare system, mental health should be more dominant into that, and that as much as it is physical, and it just doesn't feel like it's cutting out. Like neurological diseases should be more prevalent to as certain things. I get it. You know, there's more hardcore things out there in the world, but if you're going to treat one thing one way, you got to treat the other the same. And me having epilepsy is the same thing as somebody having um, Alzheimer's for the most part. The only difference is Alzheimer's can kill you and epilepsy can kill you over time. Like I could have a seizure after this show tomorrow and die. And you know, all everybody will be watching is this whole YouTube and Twitch and stuff. But it, and from speaking experience with cancer, it's just I don't want to have somebody see me go through that because I've seen my mom go through it. But the point of me getting to all of this stuff with the healthcare is the same thing with guns, because if you're going to want to take harder stances on guns, and you want to have the same stance for the Second Amendment, eventually you're going to have to realize there's a middle ground somewhere. And right now we're not even on a middle ground. We're just pointing fingers at each other. I mean, the world's got to smarten up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there are just too many people out there that believe that everything is. And now, I mean, I don't like talking about politics, so I really don't like talking about religion, but unfortunately, they really go hand in hand at the end of the day because while there's. I've tweeted about this before too, and funny enough, I even tweeted about this before the mass shooting, the one in Uvalde. um, or maybe it was during the Uvalde. I don't even remember. My days are all crazy now. Um, there's supposed to be in this country, in the United States, a separation of church and state. There's supposed to be. However, I don't think I have any cash on me in my wallet because I literally just came home from work and jumped on here. No, I don't.
Some of the dollar bills themselves say, "In God we trust."
All our dollar bills say "In God we trust." Our coins say "In God we trust." The um the the Pledge of Allegiance, under God, individual and
Divisible,
indivisible, with
yeah.
liberty and justice for all. Um, all the propaganda songs have God in it. It's not really that. There's no real true separation of church and state. Our laws, what's been going on with abortion, hey, just they try to go like, oh, this is a science thing. So like, the sperm, it's literally as soon as the sperm touches the egg, bam, that's a child, and I can't get rid of it. It's like, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about? Like, they believe this is all God given. Had that the Constitution is God given, and that the child literally, upon conceiving, God given. Everything is God. Guns are God given. It's like there's just too many people out there that have this mentality that everything is theirs because God has given it to them. And how do you
God
get
gave us
away from that?
wrestling. I'll say that much. You
Well,
gotta laugh sometime.
Vince faced God at one point, but that jerk didn't show up. But yeah, like it's hard to get down to what is supposed to be a common sense thing when people use non-common sense things to come to their conclusions.
Or to cover up common sense things to make them uncommon.
Yeah, it's just really unfortunate because this is not something that's made up. Majority gun owners support common sense gun laws that the people who are in charge that can enact them just don't want to do. And that is, of course, because of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain people, certain lobbyists of the National Rifle Association, and I'm not, people would just normally say NRA, but there might be somebody that doesn't know what the NRA means. The National Rifle Association, which has been around for decades now, has funneled money into politicians' pockets so that they don't do common sense gun laws, because everyone should have the right to own a gun, according to them, and everyone should have the right to pay for a gun and give them money. So that's really what it comes down to. That's really the entire reason why there are 2 elementary school shootings with kids under 10 years old dead, and nothing is being done about it.
You gotta pull your mic a little out of the way. We can hear you breathe.
Oh, sorry.
I
Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing?
Hey,
I just wanted to be like touch on this because it's like the more this happens, the more common it is, and I have so many fears about this stuff too. And I know Amanda pretty much I think does, but I'm always wrong about certain things too. I just know for me, it's just I worry because I have a big heart, and it's becoming more and more ridiculous how the government's being. And it for me, I have a feeling that they forget that that they go in there and they put their own interests in there when they get in there, but they forget we hired them. It's we are the ones hiring them, not them hiring us. They're there to do a job for us, not them doing a job for us, if that makes sense.
Right. It does.
So I mean, it's just it's becoming to the point where it's like, do you question everything? Because if a good example, state of Massachusetts botched a safety of a child because of the fact of a situation. I can't remember the name of it. I know Amanda will correct me on that, but it happened in New Hampshire and Mass. They had to go and look at the protocols for DCS, and it's ridiculous how history repeats itself constantly, and we don't tend as humans to learn from it. I mean, plagues over the centuries. We have COVID now. Wars and stuff like that. It's just, when is all this bloodshed and all this stuff gonna end?
It's not
Because
going to end.
eventually,
It's not going to end.
No, I know, but I'm saying, when will it end and we'll be able to be on an even keel for a while? It's not going to.
Who
It's
knows?
irrational, but still, it's somebody who has a hope, who's hopeless, kind of.
Well,
and no, go ahead, Tim.
well, it's like this. There's somebody in the other room. I'm not going to mention who that person is, but that person's watching. That person goes to school every single day. And I'm feared for the life of that person going to school every day. Okay? I feel for Drew's safety as well. What happens if the person is in my room? I'll say my room, but I'm not mentioning the person's name. I get a phone call from somebody stating the fact that the person that is there in that room with me gets shot up in school. How is that going to make me feel? I'm going to be devastated. Because I'm going to give you all a little 411, or better known as a information. I got the school life. I have the school life now. Okay? These mass shootings. Okay, I was actually, what year was Columbine shooting?
98.
99? 98?
98.
I was in 6th grade.
Okay,
when
now
that
you
happened.
guys are dating me. Thank you. I feel old now. Where's my walker and cane?
Throwback. Hear me
That
out.
makes me younger than everybody here.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the facts here. I was only 12 or 13 years old when that mass shooting happened. Sandy Hook, I was about in my mid-20s when that happened.
There's a lot more than Sandy Hook and stuff like that. There was
Yeah.
the mass shooting at West Virginia. I think one of the colleges was shot up and stuff. There's been so many different ones.
There was a shooting
Virginia
in Blacksburg, Virginia. But yep, right in my state, Virginia Tech. Yep. And also the one in Virginia Beach. There was a mass shooting there at the Municipal Center. There was also one at 2 miles down the road where my birthplace was, in Bridgewater, Virginia.
Aurora, Colorado, the movie theater.
Yep, that too.
Well, Washington was actually in that one.
Yeah, and here's the thing that nobody. Okay, so do you remember when the coach for the Golden State Warriors came on, did a press conference, and he yelled and he bellowed out what his statement was? There is a thing sitting inside the White House right now, a bill about background checks and everything, and nobody hasn't voted on it, and it's been there for years. Every time I'm going to say this to y'all. Every time I go to the grocery store or I go somewhere around here where I live at, I'm feared for my life. Because if one yo-yo is going to turn around and pull the gun out on me and start shooting everything. I value my life, and I value everything for me.
So let's do some of the stuff that we always get into. Let's get into wrestling. I just wanted to touch on how I feel about it and stuff.
Same
I can
here.
write everything till I blue, but still. I know nobody watches NXT here. I
watch NXT.
Hell no. I don't. I watched Dynamite, but
I guess I didn't have to watch NXT, but I just wanted to be in the loop for when I was doing the post show on Fightful. So,
or better yet, when you can do it on Body Slam too. So
true.
For me, I think what's important is that people are not talking about a match of the year candidate, and I'm talking about like top 20 wise. And that Grimes Frazier match, oh my god, that was awesome match.
Frazier was very, very good.
It's very fast paced, and Frazier's like a lightning in the bottle. Like he could be even at Seth's level or even better in a few years. He could be NXT champion within the next 3, but it's just so interesting to see how quick, fast paced, and he literally Grimes. No matter how that match was going to be set up, Grimes was having trouble keeping up a little bit. I mean, it was awesome to see Grimes just taking in and all that stuff. So
that's natural. That's Trevor Lee's like natural environment is wrestling like
Mhm.
Nathan Frazier. So I'm not surprised that they had a great match.
It's just fun to see something different. I
Yeah.
wish that match kicked off the whole thing, the whole show, because
Mhm.
then you could just let it set down. Because covering,
Sorry, I had an alarm set yesterday. I forgot to turn it off.
Cell
for
phone
like
zone.
for covering NXT though, it's just, even though I haven't done a show in a couple of weeks and I'm getting meaning to, it's just I am very excited when this show happened. The possibilities. The previous week there was more women's matches than anything, and they were setting up the finals for the women's breakout star match coming up, the final one. But this literally had like dissension in the Creed brothers. The guy that they have in Diamond Mine, that new guy, is just insane. It's like Brock Lesnar meets Shelton Benjamin. They basically hung out and just literally created this
Yeah, he's really good.
wrestling hybrid, and it's just insanely awesome to see something like that.
Interesting that he's the Stevenson brother. So like, that. I'm not going to get into the whole main roster bullshit. Keep going. Sorry.
You're good.
I think that with the way they go is that after a big show, they drop everything down to the bare bones and then build it back up and drop it again. I think what me and Drew were talking about at one point, there was like 2 or 3 shows in a row previously before the last major show they did. It was all like bad shows back to back to back. I think we did a show on Body Slam and we were just talking about random stuff. I thought at one point we were going to talk about cars and stuff for a second.
I remember that
Jeez.
was the show where you mentioned Tiffany and Grace and Waller tag teaming, and then I was just like, nope, let's move on, because I didn't even want to talk about that shit.
And now with the way In Your House is setting up this weekend, I'm kind of excited for it. I'm gonna message Cass. I'll probably end up doing the.
I'm not, but whatever.
Might have me do the In Your House post show with somebody, so that'll be fun.
I won't be able to do
not,
that with you, unfortunately.
Yeah, you'll be doing Fifles.
I have the Luis Polito job this week.
Mm-hmm.
So, boy, was yesterday stressful. We'll get to that when we get to that.
Because I caught the promo itself. I didn't catch the rest of the show. Like, I watched like excerpts of it, and now there's GIFs and memes and stuff like that. It's just them, and having Gacy as your number one heel on that product is hard. I think out of everything for that show, the one spot that's getting more traction on internet is the Wendy Chu finish drop off the table, where it just looks like she jumps off and looks like she's ready to fall asleep and does like a side.
I seen that one.
I think
I seen that spot. That's insane, but it's cool
and
very good. I'm very worried about what happens after this feud, because I don't know what's gonna happen. Like, I don't envision her winning the championship at In Your House, but if I don't know what she does, regardless of whether she wins it or not. It's because she'd been doing this now since when? Since Stand and Deliver, right? Like, it's been her whole
a little bit
thing.
Before that, yeah,
and even before that. So it's like, what do we do? I don't know.
It's a juggling act. That's pretty much what it is.
I think they're pulling the trigger a little bit too quickly. I think the way she's developed that character and stuff, it's the one steady character that makes perfect sense out of all of them. And she's doing such a good job with it. I think they could have held out a little longer for this.
There are characters that are it's not that they're bad characters. It's just that they suck. The characters just
Mm-hmm.
suck. The
Mm-hmm.
Gacy thing could be good if it just wasn't carbon copy of Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, Kane, all the spooky shit that they've ever done in WWE, and not consistent either. It was Bray Wyatt with Harland. Now it's Undertaker with the Druids. And it's like there's no it's not like there's an easy transition from one thing to the next. It's just
There's no
this week,
no forward motion into the track, so to speak. There's
yeah,
no one way
this
direction.
week Bray Wyatt, next week Undertaker. It's like there's nothing. It's like all of a sudden these druids just show up, and then they kidnap the guy's father. It's like what's going on here? This makes no sense to the character that you've been building with this guy. And then you get rid of the guy that was with him, and now all of a sudden he's the next Undertaker. It just makes no sense at all. And then like the Tiffany Stratton stuff, which is just god fucking awful. God.
I'll say this much: I like the turf war going on too. The what I call the Familia versus El Gato del Fantasma.
Right.
That is going to be an interesting match.
That was going to be the next thing that I mentioned as a good thing. Like the Tony D'Angelo family and the Legado del Fantasma. That's actually good stuff. I like that, they were on the boat on Tuesday, and I haven't seen really the two guys that are with Tony D'Angelo. I think I only saw them when they debuted.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen much of them since then. But it's got that mafia, style feel to it, and Legado del Fantasma has a mafia style feel to it as well. So
and after looking at all this card and looking up and down the card itself that they have so far, the only match I'm looking forward to is that Tony D'Angelo Mafia El Legado del Fantasma match because of the stipulation. If whoever loses, they have to join the opposite family. So I'm curious to see how they pull this off. It'd be interesting, but this would be a good way to have Escobar go into the sunset if they're going to pull the trigger on him going in the main roster too. Because it's not like they're letting the other three off the hook,
Yeah, I definitely think Tony D'Angelo is winning that.
And for me, I'm excited to just see that. But the rest of the card, I'm not excited to see Breakker and Gacy. Like, I'm not.
Nope.
Like, am I excited to see the women's championship match, Rose versus Chu? Yeah, but I think it's too early. Am I excited to see the women's tag match? Nope. And then I think there's there is a tag match where there's a lot of stakes to it, where the Creed brothers leave. Well, if they lose, they leave Diamond Mine and stuff, and
they're the ones that deserve to win, but they're not going to win now because of that stipulation.
So I mean, I'm not looking forward to that match, and it's just what as much as I'm gonna be watching it to cover for it. I'm not privilegedly excited for it. There's nothing like, that black and gold back there behind Drew where you had every match that jumped at you. You're like, oh my God, I have to see it. And now, like, it's very rare you have that. Like, with the feud with Cora Jade and Natalya, I think they could have just pushed this out to In Your House. I think that would have made the card a lot more stronger, because to me, this card is extremely weak for this type of show. And it's really sad that, because like I was having a conversation with someone saying, like, I feel horrible for the talent because of the fact that they're busting their ass to do it. But even though WWE is making billions and billions of dollars, you have a couple of wrestling promotions that care about their own product and their wrestlers together, rather than not giving a crap about everything else. Like, I don't see honestly anybody in the pipeline that I'm excited for. The only person I'm probably excited to see if he gets the NXT champion would be Carmelo Hayes, and that's just because of the fact that how good he is. I think he's more main roster ready than Breaker is, but I think they're going to end up giving him the title before the end of the year because they're going to pull Breaker up after SummerSlam.
Carmelo Hayes is really who should be facing Braun right now.
Yeah.
This Gacy stuff shouldn't even exist.
He's technically like their number one heel in the whole freaking product, but they don't see it.
Oh, but yes, I thought you were saying that they think that. Well, actually, no, they do think that Joe Gacy is their number one heel, which is absolutely insane because that character sucks.
That's what I was touching at. I was saying Hayes is pretty much number one heel, but the thing about it is that the one Gacy being it, they don't know how good they have it with it. I mean, Mello hits every promo like on the dot. Very, very, steady worker, work ethic and stuff like that. I'll even go one step further. He was wearing a Tatum jersey on Tuesday, and IJ popped for that because of him living around here doing chaotic wrestling too. It's just very, very hard to like get excited. I mean, think of it this way too. We've seen Grimes and Hayes already kind of in that triple threat with Sikoa. I mean, we've seen so many different matches, and they're not going to and let's be honest, they're not going to have Hayes get the title again because they're going to give Grimes his due after being in NXT this entire time. So they're going to give him a good run just because of the fact that he's been one of their hardcore workers and stuff. And I think they see in the NXT brand of WWE, they see their NXT and North American title as the IC title and the US title, like the workers title, kind of. It's just their version of it. And right now, Grimes is running with that ball and going crazy with it. And I'd rather see Hayes as the champion, as the NXT champion, rather than the quote unquote A champion.
Yep.
And have Grimes go at it and then have a second unification match and just make somebody actually defend both titles. Because even though Keith Lee did it, that was bullshit.
No, they just did that Keith Lee thing because they were counter programming the AEW show that was going on at the time.
Still bullshit.
It was bullshit, absolutely. I'm just saying that like that was they didn't just do that because they wanted to. They did that because they said, "Oh, what was it? Capital something was the show, right?"
Yeah.
And it was counter programming Dynamite that time, still before they moved to Tuesday. So they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this big Keith Lee 2 belts thing," and that lasted like a month. Not even.
It lasted 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous. So
it's just one of those things. I always say just one of the things when I'm trying to get a thought, but it clears out. But it's ridiculous how they book these people and then they get on the main roster and they're set up to fail for the most part. I think the only PC class that was very successful was that first class. And you look at the list of that first class, the people in those first class in all of wrestling, a lot of them, a ton of them are still working and still doing great work. Miro's in AEW, he was in that first class. Look at the 4 Horsewomen, they were there. Alexa was there. There's so many of them too.
It's interesting because a lot of people say that, but then I think to myself, well, okay, yes, the first class, Sammy and Kevin, were they technically? They weren't really the first class, right? They were like
They were brought in, but they were like second class or something like that. Yeah.
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 Like
yeah.
Every class of NXT has had really good people. I mean, Adam Cole was like 3rd class. Like
Undisputed
Cole,
Era,
Gargano, and
Joe,
Ciampa, and the Four
Gargano,
Horsewomen.
Andrade.
Yeah, it's like everybody, every class has great people, but then WWE doesn't know what to do with them once they move on from there. Because the Four Horsewomen, I mean, let's break it down right now before we get into Dynamite. The Four Horsewomen, Charlotte, Ronda,
Hey,
Becky, Bailey. Oh, franchises here. Those four women, one of them only just got into the stardom that she deserved in Becky, and that was because they lucked into a segment where her nose broke and the crowd went apeshit for her.
It's
That was
always the
a
little
WWE
things,
gimmick.
though. That's
That
what
was
makes a star, those little things, you know?
Yeah, it's
Sometimes
not the
people
thing.
luck into it.
It's not the things that WWE does. It's the things that naturally happen as what should happen on a natural wrestling show. And then you go with that stuff. And that's why AEW does a lot of things right. Charlotte is, like female Roman. Nobody really gives a shit about her anymore. Bailey is injured. I would say, well, let's leave Bailey for last. Sasha, well, we know what happened with Sasha. While she was really good, WWE never really put. This was a woman. This was a woman who was in The Mandalorian, and they didn't even advertise that shit ever. A crossover star, something that they tout when they bring back The Rock and Steve Austin and all these people. This is somebody that you can actually tout as a crossover star, and you do nothing at all. That's insane, really.
And that's one of those things I was saying too, is like that's a platform you could have just launched a whole new direction of people, because you have somebody who's like, oh, who's Mercedes Vietas, and she's Sasha Banks. Okay, so let me check what else she does, and then they'll search on there and look at the other stuff. They have the ability to use all these things. It's just I don't understand why they don't.
Because of, as somebody said yesterday in their promo, the big boss in charge. It's always the person up here. The person up here in that in this company, at least in this company, is terrible at his job, because it's just what he wants to see on his television program. Fuck everyone else. That's it. He put, I mean, speaking of this very thing that I'm pointing at right now, he put this and the black strap version of this on one guy, and he ain't nowhere to be found right now. What kind of bullshit is that? That's insane. But now the last person I want to talk about in that group, Bailey. Bailey is the only one who has had more, I think, current success in her heel turn. Ever since she turned heel, and that was in like early 2019, I think. She's been on a tear since then, and I think that she probably, I'm so, I'm so unfortunate that she got injured last year, because she was doing some great work, and I know that when she comes back, she's going to continue to do great work. But I feel like she's the only one that and Sasha to an extent, but she's really the one that I put at the top of the Horsewoman mountain. I don't know how other people think about that.
I mean, but you also have to look at it out of that class, right? Alexa is part of that class. Then there are a few.
How well she's been treated.
There's been a few duds in there too. So I mean, Eva Marie was in that class. Like a few others were not in there.
Well, personally for me, it had to be the inaugural NXT class with Sheamus, Daniel Bryan. Who else was there? Right? What was his name before he went right back?
Skip.
I can't. Skip Sheffield. That right there, to me, that's the one I watch. And to me, that's something that there's only one of them still around. That's Sheamus.
But the
Because
thing
the
for
other
me
one-
is that I'm talking about the class as a whole as a success. You look at the main roster and look how many of that first class are still intact, whether they're injured or whatnot. They're still there. A large amount of them. The Usos was part of that class too. It's literally insane. Dean Ambrose, aka John Moxley's in AEW with Miro and a few other people in that class. I mean,
At one
it's
point in time, every single person in that class was misused and not given the full potential on television. Like, if you really think about it, literally all of them: Bailey, Sasha,
Yep.
Charlotte, Becky, Brian, Sheamus. I mean, literally, like any person. I can't think honestly of one person who's come up from NXT ever and been used properly on the main roster. They get used like in like little segments of their careers on the main roster. Like Kevin Owens is doing great right now, but Kevin Owens wasn't always doing great. Sami Zayn, great, wasn't always doing great, because there's these parts in time of them on the main roster where Vince just does fuck all with them, really. And they're like, okay, they're either not on TV or they're in a stupid segment for something, like there's never been a consistent, not even this guy holding this stuff. People wanted him to be a heel for years, and Vince never wanted to do it. As a result, the company suffered because of him. So you can't even say that he was treated properly. Like, I'm really trying to pin together. Dean Ambrose was a horror show towards the end of his run in WWE when he turned heel. Seth Rollins, I literally stopped watching WWE because of Seth Rollins for a time, because of how fucking terrible he was in The Authority. So there's really there's no one person that you can go to that was in NXT that was like, this is the person that every NXT person should aspire to be. Who? Really? Can you think of one?
Look
I
how
mean,
bad.
for me, it would be Seth, really, because of how he's been treated over the years, not just performance-wise, but just in general. I mean, he is a multi-champion, and every time they gave him the opportunity, he runs with it. I mean, look what he's doing.
Nothing in this company. I mean, let's be
I
real.
know, but I'm talking about just like opportunities for certain things. I mean, look at him and Cody right now. That it's literally insane. But when he came up and stuff, with the Shield, when they did that, he literally was a tag champion within a few months with Roman, and it went from there. And it's just, I think he's the one person that's not been like hurt, like severely hurt.
Well, I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't go that far, because, like I said, 2015, before he got that knee injury, up to when he came back and everybody was like really excited that he was back and he beat Roman Reigns. He came back and he could have been a top babyface in that company, and they immediately put him back as a heel, and that was a terrible decision. And I'm just saying, like, any class of NXT that has come up to the main roster, there's no one person. If I'm an independent wrestler and I'm choosing, do I want to go to WWE? Do I want to go to AEW? If I'm looking at WWE as a whole and they're going to sign me to an NXT contract, first of all, I would never go to NXT now anyway, because that's just the fucking shits. But if it was, if it was still black and gold NXT, I would go there probably. If I was going to go there, I want a Ciampa deal. Well, I mean, and now even the Ciampa deal is gone now too, because he's on the main roster. But like, I want the good Triple H Shawn Michaels booking of NXT Black and Gold, and I don't want anything else. If AEW didn't want me, that's what I'm doing. Do not put me on the main roster. Do not associate me with Vince McMahon. I don't want to have a meeting with him. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want him to be involved in my creative. Triple H, Shawn Michaels, the people in NXT, Black and Gold, and that's it. And then I could probably have a decent career. I could have a, I mean, I don't know if I would, I'm not saying what I would be, like a wrestler or manager or whatever, but I would say I could have, or I would envision myself at least, having a Keith Lee-esque type career in NXT, or even a Ricochet NXT career before he went up to the main roster. Like, just like a very good mid-card, upper mid-card main eventer, great storylines, and I'll be happy in NXT Black and Gold. Not NXT 2.0. I would never go to NXT 2.0. They just make me some weird, like, fourth Italian gimmick or something. But yeah, it's like sitting here, if I'm an independent wrestler and I want to go to WWE or I want to go to AEW, if I'm looking at WWE, I'm going, who was in NXT that moved up to the main roster and I want to mirror their career? Nobody.
Well,
Which is a good.
look at
Well,
Go ahead, Tim.
go ahead, Tim.
No.
And then I'll segue into something that you just touched, because the whole thing about being somebody outside of WWE and after that whole promo.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
no, it's okay. No, it's all right. I'm gonna go anyway. Y'all have a good night. Goodbye.
Oh. Okay.
That sounded rushed.
That was-
Sorry, Tim.
All right. I hope everything's okay with him. I left kind of suddenly.
With you saying about the whole thing about, WWE talents, if you're on indie, stuff like that. Look, MJF, oh my God. I've never heard so many expletives. I was going to ask you this too when we were here, was that, do you think AEW just launched their Stone Cold Steve Austin?
I think it.
I
was
should ask
thinking
this
of
on
it-
Twitter and ask Sean this too, because that's an interesting question. I don't think anybody's asked.
I was thinking about this today when I was on my way to work, because I was listening to. What was I listening to? I was listening to some podcast. I don't know if it was not Wrestle Talk. I don't remember who it was, but I was like, okay, I think that, because a lot of people are saying, oh, this is the next pipe bomb, this is the next Stone Cold, whatever. I feel like it's actually a mixture of the two. I think that this pipe bomb of MJF, you could say, was a stepping stone into a Stone Cold like thing. Because remember, before Austin 316 and the match with Bret Hart, the double turn, Austin was a heel. And that promo plus the match with Bret shot him into a babyface superstar. This promo from MJF was like, that was the stepping stone. That was like, there is, so like people are saying, oh, which pipe bomb is better, MJF's or CM Punk's from 2011? There is, and as much as I loved MJF last night, they are not exactly comparable. And I think that they're not comparable because, one, while they were both rooted in reality, I think that the timing and the atmosphere of wrestling fandom right now, when you go back and you listen to CM Punk's pipe bomb, the New Japan ROH references, the shots at the fans, all that reality-based stuff does not get the pop or the reaction that MJF, WWE, fan shitting on reaction got last night.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was saying, like, the whole thing with him screaming at Tony about firing and calling out Tony and stuff, that would be Austin kind of thing where Austin would call out Vince and call him a stupid son of a, and just
Yeah.
go off on that. I think the pipe bomb part would be, for me, would be Punk's pipe bomb mixed with AJ's. But what I mean about the hybrid of it is, like, the style of promo Punk did was him breaking the fourth wall and looking over and saying, I don't give a crap, I'm out of here, being personal. But I had a feeling with MJF's promo, it was kind of like that Austin vibe off of it. Like, he just literally had that swagger into it.
It has a mixture of multiple shoot promos. It has Austin 316. It has Pipe Bomb. And it had somebody, I think Steven Jensen mentioned this, or Jeremy did on the Spotlight today. A Ric Flair-esque "fire me, I'm already fired" type, because, and somebody else had mentioned it too. I think the other podcast that I can't remember, how just the passion and the like, just how passionate MJF was last night. You don't see in a lot of, like, angry promos, like when somebody's supposed to be mad on the microphone about something about their opponent or whatever.
Yeah.
When CM Punk, when MJF said, "I'm the best in the world," he wasn't saying it because CM Punk said it. He was saying it because he fucking means it.
He believes it.
He believes it. And his eyes were like Ric Flair style, "fire me, I'm already fired." Like, that type of redness and energy being just taken out from his face, his facial expressions alone. Like, he looked like he was like, it's like when I look back at it, it's almost like, when somebody's being choked for a while and their face just starts turning red and their eyes start, like, popping out of their skull.
Yeah. It's like a cartoon character.
Yeah, like similar to that. You could see that he was 100% not working in his reaction. The promo itself is a work. How much of it is a shoot, maybe we'll never know. Who knows if we'll ever really know, like, all the events of what happened over the weekend. But, or when this officially became a work.
Or it's basically shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, and I actually like that. I think that that's what it should be. But going back to what we were just saying, I think that, first of all, you can't really compare the two pipe bombs, because I do believe that the Punk pipe bomb was served for the era of wrestling in 2011, and the MJF pipe bomb was served for the era of wrestling in 2022. Like, because of because MJF only dropped WWE. Oh, and New Japan as well, but not as, like, something to go to. He was just mentioning New Japan because of the fans, because the fans of 2022 and AEW are so hyped about the New Japan pairing and the ROH stuff, and it's like, the internet wrestling fan that gets shit on a lot. That's the bulk of the AEW audience. So a lot of what MJF said last night was almost like somewhat similar to what Eric Bischoff, Jim Cornette, those types of talking heads with their own podcasts that have these controversial opinions. That's really what MJF was. That was the basis of MJF's promo last night. Of Tony's a money mark. Tony shouldn't be in this position. He's only a fan with money. The fans don't know what the hell that whole diatribe about Twitter that he went on last night. Oh my God, that's like 1,000% true. 1,000% true.
It's always dead on.
People on Twitter don't think that their opinions matter, and that they are because they have a phone that has access to that app, they are gods on Twitter, and they are literally scum of the earth. Like so many of them, the jobbers and the junkies and the Garretts and the fucking Alfred from WINC. Like these types of people that are literally just there to shit on whatever and go after people. That's fucking stupid. And they are really only doing that because Twitter gives them the platform to do so.
But I'll be honest. I tweet stupid stuff all the time, but a lot of the times I'm trying to
You don't tweet like those people do.
No, I don't. But I tweet joking stuff with you and me, and I post stuff about me having a kid and stuff, and everybody loves it and everything. And I have a family now and stuff, but sometimes I'll joke something about anime or something like that that's not wrestling and stuff. And I've had one person, well, aren't you supposed to report wrestling? You do stuff on your byline for Body Slam. I cover a post show for Body Slam for NXT. I wish I could write really well for them. It'd be great to cover NXT and write for them on a regular basis. But I'm not that I can type well. I can say stuff. I have really bad spelling, excruciating bad spelling and grammar. But it's just I'm not into doing that on a regular basis. I like doing this. It's more fun to see somebody get stuff. But Twitter is so toxic so many of the times, I'm more afraid to have people I know check out certain things because of the fact that it could send somebody off to the wrong point of information. Like I had one person today tell me, "Oh, I'm not going to need an oil change after this. I've got an electric car." Electric cars need oil changes because you need to lubricate the gearboxes because those are the two oil changes, not the hybrids, not the electric system. You got to lubricate the wheels in order to make them go, and you need oil to do that and stuff. It's just hydraulic fluid to do it. It's the same thing with Twitter. It's just
people think that they know shit, and they don't, and that's exactly what MJF said last night. Your opinions suck, and you don't know shit. That's literally what he said in the promo last night. It's right. It's absolutely right. It's something that we see in specifically wrestling Twitter daily. Daily.
Like me, because I just tweeted this out a second ago. I put one out there asking that very question that we just mentioned to Sean. And I said, do you, and I know I probably won't get a reply because obviously Sean's busy as hell. I said, do you think MJF's promo last night could possibly be the launch of a hybrid CM Punk Austin type character where it puts more eyes on MJF? The answer to that, I don't know what he'll say. Some people read that and be like, oh, throwbacks just, I literally don't watch AEW that much. I saw that promo because it was on Fire and stuff like that, and people were talking about it. So I wanted to take a look at it, and I watched a bit of it. And I was just in shock about everything he said, and everything he said was correct. It's just, I think that even if it's not MJF, one of these days there'll be a hybrid of something like MJF's promo and the swagger of The Rock. It could be multiple tudes of things, It's just, I just wanted to know what everybody else thinks. But he's dead on all that stuff, and it's just interesting how irate he was.
And the funny thing is also too, a lot of people, and I haven't. Oh, go ahead.
And the line he said is like, everybody thinks that I'm not the best in the world, and then 10 minutes later they're kissing my ass. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it goes. Like, people are going to do that on Twitter and online because they want to make you sure they get their noticed and happy. Me, I'm just like, if I get a freaking like from a wrestler or something like that, will I geek out? Of course, but
yeah.
I'm not gonna turn around and be like, oh no, it's not gonna work. Do I geek out on certain people that reply to me? Yes, it's just a natural reaction. Hell, I mean, I mark out on certain people in the community because I have so much respect for them. Having Chris on last week, I was excited because I only talked to him in certain chats for Fightful periodically, and I never got to talk to him on screen, and that was an awesome experience. And him telling me about the whole Marvel thing, I would love to do all that stuff with them. Like, same thing with Rob. I talked to Rob here and there, and we're going to try to do something soon. Me and you have that car show, which is scheduled August 18th. Go check that out, by the way. Yes.
I saw it on my YouTube things, like August 18th. I was like, oh, I have to wait so long for that.
I figured that way I didn't have to cover my butt, but we might do another car show just to back it up, just to keep lining them up. Why not?
Yeah. So I feel like it's a mixture of both the Punk Pipe Bomb and an Austin like run, because I'm trying to think of like, what the hell do they do with this now? And I've kind of like, funny, I just mentioned the thing about MJF and Twitter. I kind of took that role as well the last few weeks. It started out with the women's division in AEW. I've really just been not a fan of a lot of the stuff that they've been doing. I was not happy that Ruby lost. I was not happy that Thunder Rosa had no involvement with last night's show whatsoever. I'm not happy that there's a bunch of things. I'm not going to get into it, but that, and then I thought about, like the other thing that I talked about yesterday on Twitter was Wardlow. Now, Wardlow, he was, him and MJF had this incredible feud, and then the blow off was Double or Nothing, and the match went. There was also the controversy of what had happened the day before with the Fan Fest thing and MJF not showing and whatever. But that match happened how it should have happened, regardless of. And you didn't see it, right? Or did you see it? Did you see Double or Nothing?
Nope, but I heard about the 10 power bombs.
Yeah, so Wardlow basically squashed him, and that's exactly how it should have happened. So there was the controversy of what had happened with MJF the day before that kind of like made it, oh, okay, this is really like a big thing about MJF, but they did the match the right way, and the thing that like got me a little upset, while I loved the MJF promo, I didn't understand why Wardlow was just randomly facing JD Drake. Like, JD Drake is, I had made the comparison to he's like Akira Tozawa level of like main event / 24/7 shenanigans guy, and who's supposed to be the biggest star coming out of the MJF feud is just having a match with somebody who's primarily on Dark and Dark Elevation.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Somebody's having fun over there. I can
Good
tell.
night, everybody.
It's Buggy. Saying goodnight.
My fragility.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know we're gonna keep going, but we might as well write it up because this one's got to get some sleep. So, Drew, tell them where they can find you.
Right there.
Hopefully he changes his handle to 3 Belts Drew. That would be great. Big money Belts Drew.
I don't want to lose that handle though, so I can't do that.
Other than that, you can find me right there on the bottom. You got to find this little one in bed soon. This, like we talked about serious stuff, but eventually do a good deed and stuff like that. And life's too short. We'll be hopefully on Body Slam. We'll be doing the NXT show soon. There's going to be a new co-host there, so hopefully that will be great. Other than that, check out the champion right there running around with another 2 titles or so going around each side and stuff.
Right here, it'll be right here where that stupid vase has to go.
Yeah. Do a good deed. Wait for it. Be safe.
Good night.